Live from the Panera Studios, it's the Reading with Robin show, brought to you each week by my friends at Panera Bread. Panera is one of my favorite places to hang out, whether I'm going in for a cup of coffee, meeting up with some friends, or stopping in late afternoon for that little pick-me-up that I need, my nice iced coffee. I love picking up a salad, whether I want to stay there and eat it or bring it home. You can also call ahead, and they'll have your order ready to go. That's all at Panera Bread. And now, enjoy the show. Mamaleh knows best what Jewish mothers do to raise successful, creative, empathetic, independent children. My guest is Marjorie Engel. She's columnist for Tablet Magazine, the National Magazine Award-winning journal of Jewish culture and ideas, and a regular contributor to the New York Times Book Review. And congratulations, New York Times calling Mamaleh Knows Best rich and insightful, which is really cool. That was, I was really excited to see that.
I was super psyched because they can be terrifying. Even if you write for them, they can be terrifying.
Big deal, right? Even though you write for them, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Pamela Paul, who's the editor-in-chief, has talked about getting a terrible review from the Times.
Well, there you go. Anyway, welcome to Reading with Robin.
Thank you.
Marjorie
Thanks for having
Engel.
me.
My pleasure. We were talking off air, and I remembered first reading about this book and thinking, this is the coolest title ever, and anybody that's written this book, Mamaleh Knows Best, I absolutely have got to interview, and you have so much praise on the back of your book from so many of my favorites, including A.J. Jacobs and your friend, Gail Foreman. I have her brand new book.
It's so good. I hope you enjoy it.
I know. I can't, it's one of those stacks, but it's it's getting wonderful praise all over the place. So I'm really excited, and also Peggy Orenstein. And the book just came out, and to get this amazing review, and what's that like while do you know the review's coming?
Yes. You find out in advance that they are going to review it, but you don't get the content. And I actually didn't see the review until everybody else did. I didn't see it until the day it went up on, it goes up online a few days before it's available in the Sunday paper. So I saw it, the same time everyone else did. And,
wow.
I hit I was so happy.
I can only
imagine. You just never know. Yeah.
No, you really just don't know. And you can visit Marjorie's site at mamalehnowsbest.com and also marjorieengel.com. You can also find her on Facebook, on Twitter. So because of the social media.
I'm a really good procrastinator.
What writer among us isn't? I think that's a prerequisite, right? It's just part of it. But when you, because of social media, when something like that comes out, your site just must blow up with all the well-wishers. And
it's really sweet. It's nice that, because I've been writing about other people's books for so long.
Yeah.
It's nice to feel like you've engendered some goodwill and people are happy for you.
Well, it was really nice to read because there is this sense of community and the writers, and like you say, after writing about so many other books, to have that come back. It's we should start with, because not everybody would know this word Mamaleh, which can be spelled different ways.
Yes. So I used to do a column for the Jewish Forward, and they spelled it Mamele, but we, which is I think standard, Yivo Yiddish. But if you don't know Yiddish, you look at that and you say, oh, that's Mamil or Mami.
Yeah.
So
right.
We tried to do something as phonetic as possible. Yes.
Well, that makes sense. That's how I would spell it, I guess.
So it's a diminutive that just means, little mama, mamacita.
It's endearing.
So it's a sort of affectionate way to talk about your kids. You can call, a daughter Mamaleh, but I've also I like it as sort of a sort of jaunty way to refer to yourself as well.
I think it's great. It just connotes a warmth and a wisdom. And that's what you're
glad
welcome.
to hear you say that.
That's how it makes me feel. Well, my pleasure. What Jewish mothers do to raise successful, creative, empathetic, independent children. And after all, those are the kids that we want around. So we need to be raising them. And you start off in the book talking about the Gluckle of Hamlin. And I remember we read that book for Sisterhood book club years ago, and yeah, I thought that was such a great way to include that these aren't just values from today and as far back. And can you give a little bit of a historical perspective of the Jewish mother?
What we think of as the stereotype of the Jewish mother, which is someone, as you know, neurotic and clinging and demanding and, narcissistic and, controlling. Don't mind me, I'll put my head in the oven. That comes from a very specific time and place in American history. It's post-war. So I'm not saying that there's no truth to this stereotype. I mean, I think a lot of stereotypes come from a tiny grain of truth. But this was a post-war period when everybody was still reeling from the Holocaust. It was also a time when Jews were starting to get wealthier and move to the suburbs. So here you have these sort of very acculturated younger Jews who are slightly embarrassed by their steadily, ghetto-y, Yiddish accented older relatives. And you also had a time in history when Jewish men were starting to really get a foothold in comedy and in literature and telling their own stories. So basically, these were some dudes working out their mommy issues on a very big stage for the first time. But if you go back and you look at the vast span of Jewish history, like Gluckel, who wrote in the Middle Ages, here, look, she was a diarist. She was clearly educated. She ran her husband's business after he died and expanded it immensely. She was like the Spanx entrepreneurs of her day. She
amazing.
He started off as a gem dealer, and she took it into, fine silks and stockings. And she raised her children on her own, and you can read in her diary her big concern was making sure her kids were good people. And I feel like that's sort of who the Jewish mother has really been long term, is somebody who hasn't only gotten her identity from her kids and who is not interested. The stereotype is that we only want our kids to be doctors and lawyers. There's the joke about a Jewish mother is walking on the street with her little toddlers, and somebody says, "Oh, your children are adorable. How old are they?" And she says, "The doctor's 3 and the lawyer's 2." So that's not who we are. The book talks about what we've done over time is really look at our kids' interests and try to encourage those interests and try to give them, whatever help we can in encouraging them to work hard for those interests. But it's not all about you have to be a doctor or a lawyer. It's you have to work hard and do your best.
And see where they shine and what their talents are and how to be creative
and what they love.
And that's really what it comes down to, because, I mean, I can only imagine if you go back into history and you were actually to interview some of these doctors and lawyers and see how many of them were sort of directed that way at that time period, because of the way you say, the trajectory of post-World War and into those occupations and things that were a security, too. And
that's a good point.
Esteem set to them, right? So there was a reason. But today, there's just the opportunities and the creativity to, and to combine life's passions, and that they change, So there's a sense. I've spoken to many a doctor or an attorney that really wanted to get out of that gig, but it was you're into it. You're so into it for so long. So it's such a tricky mix. But I think in hearing the way you're talking about encouraging kids to find their passion, to follow their dream, all while a Jewish mother having their own. And so you talk about that, and I'm talking to Marjorie Engel. Her book is Mamaleh Knows Best, brand new, What Jewish Mothers Do to Raise Successful, Creative, Empathetic, Independent Children. And it's out. You can visit her website at Mamaleh Knows Best or MarjorieEngel.com. Find her on Facebook, on Twitter, all over the place. And I should also add, follow me at Robin Call and readingwithrobin.com. I always forget to do that. When I hear other podcasts, I'm like, they do that.
Oh, I got to toot my own horn a tiny bit.
Because I did the show live for many years on the radio, and so that was part of the show. But with the podcast, it isn't. But I'm reinstituting it today because Mamaleh knows best. So follow me at Robin Call, Reading with Robin, Facebook, and readingwithrobin.com. So back to you, Marjorie. But that is some of the other advice, and we were talking earlier off air about Wendy Mogul. Let your kids fail, and that sort of harkens back to The Blessings of a Skinned Knee. But
yes, which is such a good book.
It's such a great book. I know.
I liked the Blessings of a B- too. I thought that was really that was also a really important lesson.
It's that whole idea of encouraging them to do their best, knowing that there's going to be failure, showing them, and it's also a lot of that is by example and sort of being aware, I think, as a mother of your own passions and interests, showing them that that's, you don't sort of give it all up and just be solely focused, because at some point, hopefully, children grow and do their own thing, and then where is the mother and all that?
Right. It's sort of, I think sort of the first parenting test we all have is getting a kid to sleep through the night, and whether you discover whether you're a cry it out parent or I will never sleep again. I will just spend my life sitting in a chair in this room, kind of parent. And it's important. I found the whole cry it out thing absolutely agonizing, and sat drinking wine in a room with earplugs in while my husband dealt with it. But a kid
strategy.
In life, a child has to learn to self-soothe. A child has to learn to be comfortable being alone sometimes. It really is your first sort of teaching a kid to be independent in some ways. So I do recognize that it's difficult, and that as no matter how old your kid is, the temptation to rush in and fix things when your kid is suffering, when your kid has screwed up in some way, the temptation is very strong. But it's really, really, really important to let a child learn, A, to solve their own problems, and B, to experience failure. I don't think you can really be an empathetic person without experiencing failure. And I don't think you could be a kind person if you think you're the center of the world, which you will when your parent is always rescuing you.
Very true. And it's back to school time now. So you've got a lot of hovering parents dropping off or attempting to drop children off at maybe bus stops, maybe school, maybe colleges, and all of that.
Yeah.
And with, again, back to social media, we see it more. So, what's sort of your take on the ramped up separation that used to happen very differently?
Yes. It's funny. It's another sort of parenting test as you watch the way people do the early preschool drop-offs, and you see the parents who can never leave because they're so anxious about their kids' anxiety, and then you see the parents who sneak out, which is also, that's also agonizing and not so healthy in its way, because you're not suffering when you sneak out, but when your kid realizes that they've been abandoned and betrayed,
it's really not a good plan.
Yeah, nice. So even though it's hard, that's one of those things where you have to give a firm kiss and be sure they see you leave. And even if they cry when you leave, knowing that they're gonna stop within like 2 minutes after you're out the door.
And that's the tricky thing. It's really understanding that that's the situation. And
yes.
Sometimes if that's shared, I know those letters used to go out saying your children will be just fine, but sneaking out really ultimately teaches that I got to keep my eye on her because
that the world is not a place that can be trusted, and that's not healthy. But I do think also social media has made parenting so performative. That you have you have to show your kids looking incredibly adorable and beaming and clean and good all the time, and you're only supposed to share pictures of this polished, gleaming, joy and perfection. And we all know that that's not what the world of parenting is actually like. But somehow we're supposed to, it's like, it's like the stars, they're just like us thing is like we're so used to celebrity being right on top of us. I feel like we have to present ourselves as if we're in, Us magazine all the time.
It's true, and there really is an extra ramped-up anxiety level that is attached to all of this. And even though there's discussion out there of that we know this isn't the way it is, it continues. There really, it is, it's the devil we live with. I don't know how that, you sort of turn it down or whatever, but there is a sense of really being a little bit more truthful, at least in your own home. I mean, people
Yes.
can post whatever they want, but that is something that I can't even imagine. Liz wasn't around when my children were little, and so sometimes I like to play this little game like, how would I have dealt with this? And then I just get busy with something else. But it is an interesting concept to me. And you were talking about the drop-off at school, and in the book, and I'm speaking with Marjorie Engel, she's the author of the brand new Mamaleh Knows Best, about one of your children walking to school, something about Tina, the crossing guard, and
Yes.
you getting a phone call. So people, talk about that, because you're raising children in the city, so it's
yes.
different than the suburbs.
Yes. I love raising kids in the city. But so I screwed up, and I missed. I was supposed to pick Maxine up at school, and was late. And it was when she was very little. She was maybe 5, and I didn't let her cross the street on her own yet. And but the crossing guard because the crossing guard only let you get across one street, so she would still have had to cross another street to get home. So I got there 5 minutes late, and she was waiting with the crossing guard, and the crossing guard said to me, hey, if this happens again, here's my cell number. You can just call me. I'll hang out with her. And it was, A, she was a spectacular, lovely crossing guard.
Yeah.
But B, I think that is a way to look at the world, is that we really are a community, and maybe we feel that more in the city than in the suburbs because we're all living right on top of each other. But this sort of suspicious competitive way of viewing the world, I'm not sure is so good for kids. That most of the time, people are eager to help one another, and I've found that it's a much happier way to go through life thinking that way rather than someone is going to snatch my child off a street corner, which, by the way, the odds of that happening are infinitesimally tiny.
And you talk about that, the odds of all of these things that we worry about. When you really break it down to that, if it can overpower the anxiety that is sometimes just innate, really looking at things practically where
look at the data. The data does not support your fears. And also
it doesn't always have to, but you're right. That's a really good one. Data does not support your fears.
But one of the things that I really wanted to do in the book was really pull back far and look over the great span of history, because it's hard to remember when you're living in a particular moment in time that things have not always been this ratcheted up thing where we're worried about stuff that really doesn't matter so much. And when you look back over time, and you see the sort of common threads that have gone through Jewish parenting over time, which is why I think that it's not really necessarily a book that's just for Jews, because it's more about...
I was going to say that, right. It's absolutely it's not. I mean, this is what it's called, and that title would sort of, certain people are going to gravitate toward it, but it's really just about all parenting.
Yeah, like I'm not so interested in religion or theology. I'm interested in sort of, strategies and perspective over time, and sort of the values that Jewish mothers have conveyed over time that I think actually work, that they dovetail with what modern day theories of what constitutes good parenting to make, flexible, creative kids. I mean, our world is changing so fast. You want a kid who can really think on their feet. And I feel like that's a thing that by necessity Jews have had to do because the world was not a secure place for them. And it also gives you a little perspective on, the things we worry about when, we've had periods in history where people just wanted to survive until the next day.
Well, there's nothing like a little perspective to give just like a, hey, wait a minute there.
Yeah, you're so worked up over.
I mean, pick a topic.
Exactly.
Right. And so then there's always the sense of, okay, well, this is what you're going through now, so yes, it's important. However, when you think back to the history of our people, it is just like you can't really even look at things the same way if you keep that sort of front and center. But the historical perspective, to me, in reading something that's so current and then you see the parallels, is just such an enriched experience, because you think that this is why. And
yeah, like we talked about Gluckle of Hamelin, this this diarist from the Middle Ages in the very beginning, and she has one little self-deprecating line about, she said something about wishing she had, accomplished more business-wise, and then makes this sort of, little self-effacing crack about, but then again, I was having children every 2 years and thought I was the most besieged and beleaguered human being ever to walk the face of the earth. And I'm paraphrasing, but like we've all sounded like that, So
Absolutely.
It just was this moment calling back from the past where you're like, I could hang out with you and have Starbucks and we would totally get along.
Absolutely. There's that connection, that innate connection. And it's the, you just also, like you say about a community, knowing that people are going through the same things and really getting real about what's important and why it's important and what the goals are in raising, these little people that we're charged with.
Yeah.
And it isn't, and I like the way you have the old Levy's rye bread slogan here. You don't have to be Jewish to be a Jewish mother. It was, you don't have to be Jewish to love Levy's. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
I just remember. Yeah. And who doesn't love Levy's rye bread? So there's that. And there's so much humor all throughout the book. Reading it, and I'm on the phone with Marjorie Engel, and her brand new book is called Mamaleh Knows Best. Get a real sense of you and what's important and how you approach things. It makes so much sense to me, and there's so many great stories in here. And what are some of the takeaways that you'd like your readers to come away with?
One of the things I think, first of all, I meant for this to be read. So while I was extremely psyched about the New York, the very positive Times review, a review that mattered to me even more was my favorite Goodreads reviewer, who is named Karen Bissett, who does not have children and is not Jewish, reviewed the book and talked about how much she bookmarked in the book and how enjoyable she found it, which was huge to me because I want people to be able to read this. Because I'm out of the little kid parenting trenches, and most of the people who buy parenting books are parents of little kids, and I meant for this to be read by anyone with children of any age, because a lot of it is really about it's more about you as a human being than it is about the kids. Like if you're a mensch, your kids will be mensches. Mensch. Do we have to define mensch for your audience?
I don't. If we do, then they are listening to the wrong show. I don't think so. And also, Marjorie's book comes with a handy-dandy glossary in the back.
That's right. Thank you, Robin.
Oh, you're welcome. You can look up mensch if you need to. You can look it up, and that's what we always say when we're looking stuff up. Why wonder? Let's just Google it. People are busily Googling mensch right now.
Right.
And there's a chapter, How to Raise a Mensch. But that is, I can imagine how meaningful it would be to read a book about a parenting book from somebody who's neither Jewish nor a parent, because everything is so relatable. And first of all, it's an interesting historical perspective and the examples and remembering some of these wonderful comedians and what Philip Roth
I really wanted to write. I really wanted to write a funny book. Like if I have sort of a writing role model, it's Mary Roach, who I love the way she writes about science and history, sprinkled with jokes, basically. So I wanted you to have a laugh at least every other page.
There's a lot of laughs and self-deprecating, parenthetical yucks, and also dogs sense fear and kids sense hypocrisy. I think my dog also can sense hypocrisy. And
well, did you see that study about the dogs? No, so you're right.
They totally know. Yeah, they were showing that. I think it was yesterday on the Today Show. But we know because we have a dog that this is true. But there's so many truisms in here. It's just a delightful read. I can see anybody relating to it. And as I always say on Reading with Robin, makes the perfect gift. I mean, there's so many people. You could actually get one and write, "You did a great job. Your kid will be fine at college," and send it off to your best friend because
that's very helpful because. I have my first book event next week, and I have not figured out what to write in the book yet. So
there you go. You can have that one.
Thank you.
That's my little gift to you.
A parting gift from Robin.
So I like to always make it a little bit more fun, and there's nothing to make fun like a gift. And if you go to Mamaleh Knows Best, you can see September 8th. That's the first one with Gail Foreman at Greenlight Books in Brooklyn. So what an awesome event. I'll be in New York the following week, but you will be in San Francisco.
I will.
But I'm going to be in San Francisco. Oh, but not that day. This is so funny. We've got like parallel paths.
That's really funny.
Go to MamalehKnowsBest.com for more information. Find out all about what it takes to raise successful, creative, empathetic, and independent children. Those are the tasks that we are given when it doesn't come on the birth certificate, but it's there cryptically. This is what we're supposed to be doing, and after all, we won't be around forever. Thank you. To end on a happy note. Mamaleh Knows Best. Marjorie Engel, what a pleasure, and I hope that our paths will cross again soon.
Me
perhaps
too.
Up north. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robin.